Hi everyone, I'm Reading with Jack and today I'm here with my January wrap-up and February to be read pile. Unfortunately, I only read 2.5 books in January. I was very busy with school. I had mock exams to revise for and unfortunately that restricted my reading time, but something is better than nothing, so at least I read 2.5 books. And then I'm going to talk about my plans for February. Hopefully I will read a little bit more than I did in January. So the first book that I read in January was The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5. This was amazing. It was such a good book, and I even did a book review on it last weekend, which I'll link in the description box below. What I really loved about it was the characterisation of Margaret Lear and Vida Winters. They were very distinctive characters, and definitely characters that are going to stick with me for a long time. I also felt like the writing was beautiful, so many bookish descriptions which I devoured, and equally the plot was so mysterious, and it really got me thinking. I was completely intrigued and grabbed into this crazy, interesting world of books. I think in terms of the plot progression, I felt like I preferred the first half, which is normally quite weird. I tend to prefer second halves of books, but with this one it wasn't the case. There was a little bit of inconsistency in the second half, but overall a very enjoyable read, a very bookish read, which I loved, and it is definitely one that I'd recommend to anyone who loves reading. And obviously if you're watching this video, you probably really do love reading, so definitely buy this book and definitely read it. The second book that I read was The Eyre Affair by Jasper, Fforde, and I gave this one a 3 out of 5. I will be doing a book review on this probably this week or next week, so definitely look out for that. I'll talk about what it's about there and talk about my opinions in a little bit more detail. But in short, what I really enjoyed about this was the bookishness. The references to Jane Eyre were fantastic. I loved those parts. There could have perhaps been even more Jane Eyre references. I felt like it just needed more and more of that. I also really enjoyed the writing style. I thought it was fast-paced and humorous, very light-hearted, and I really enjoyed that about it. But the thing I really felt like the book needed more of was development, and I feel like in terms of the characters, they need more development. I felt like, you know, the plot actually needed a little bit more to it, and I also even felt like the world building wasn't very good. I felt like I was completely thrown into this world without really understanding what the world was about, and I felt like I was a little bit lost at times. So world development definitely was the thing that I wanted more of in this book. So I feel a 3 out of 5 is a justifiable rating. It was definitely entertaining, but it just didn't wow me as much as I was hoping. The final book is actually a reread. I initially read this in October of last year, and it is The Bloody Chamber and Other Short Stories by Angela Carter. This is one that I'm rereading for English literature. We're just starting to study it in class, so I wanted to reread all of the short stories before I started discussing them and analysing them. On rereading this, I actually feel like, although it is still very shocking, and I do like the shock aspect of it and the kind of ideas that it deals with, I have felt like I found a few problems, to be honest. I felt like it's a little bit contrived. The ideas just seem a little bit forced upon the reader, and to a certain extent I do like some of these, but I feel like some of them could have been a little bit more implicit. I also feel like the writing sometimes comes across as a little bit pretentious, dare I say. I don't know, I just feel like Angela Carter isn't as fantastic as I always hoped. I definitely understand why some people like her style, but for me it's not one that I would go raving about. It is shocking and it's probably going to be very interesting to analyse, but I'm not sure, just rereading it, it hasn't had the same thing that it had the first time. I'm not sure. It's definitely very impacting, but it's just a bit kind of inconsistent, I guess. I'll definitely finish rereading this in February, and then I'll talk about my opinions and my rating overall in my wrap-up. So now moving on to the other books that I want to read in February, I'm going to continue the theme of rereading actually, because I have a lot of rereading to do for English literature, and I feel like this is a very appropriate time to do it. I'm actually going to be doing 2 English exams in the summer. I've got one in May and one in June, so I really need to prepare for these and reread the books to know the texts really well. The first one is actually an exam that I'm retaking. I did it last year, and I just have to say I hate English exams. This exam really annoyed me. It was just the most irritating thing ever, but I have to retake it to try and get more marks, because even though I didn't actually do very badly in it, I just feel like I want to do better, and I feel like I could do better, and also I enjoy the text, so I felt like it would be a good chance to reread them and write about them again. The first one of them is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is a very short book, so I'll definitely be able to reread it very quickly, and it's a really interesting one actually. When I studied it last year, I really enjoyed the symbolism in this book. I loved the descriptions of the different settings. I thought they were fantastic, and I'm really excited to reread it again and learn again about it and write about it, because to be honest, I hate English exams. I'm not going to go ranting about them, but I really don't like them. They're so so unpredictable and the examiners are brutal, but I enjoy this book, so hopefully the second time doing the exam I will do better than the first time, and it should be really fun to reread it, so I'm excited for that aspect of the studying. Then the other one that I'm going to be rereading is The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. This is an amazing, amazing book. It's so emotional and the actual beauty of the writing is just so on point. Khaled Hosseini is of course one of my favourite writers, and I really, really love studying it. A bit like The Great Gatsby, I love studying it, and I am excited to reread it. I'm not excited to do the exam, obviously, but I think rereading it is going to be really interesting, and obviously analysing things again. I just think this is a really, really good book to think about. It's just one that more and more people need to read, because I have definitely seen some booktubers reading it, but not as many as I would hope. So if you're looking for an emotional, moving book which has a lot of cultural and historical references, definitely give this one a go. The other books that I'm going to be rereading are for my other exam, which is in June, and this is an exam about the Gothic genre, which I really love studying actually. It's a very intriguing genre. It's a very, moody and atmospheric genre, and the books particularly are really intriguing. One of them is The Bloody Chamber, which of course I talked about earlier. I will finish rereading that in February, and then the second one is Wuthering Heights by Brontë, and I actually have two editions. I have the disgusting Wordsworth Classics edition. I hate Wordsworth Classics, but I annotate in this one because it's horrible. And then I have my beautiful, beautiful Penguin English Library edition, which I'm going to read the actual book in. Penguin English Library editions are of course superior to anything else, so I am excited to reread this in its Penguin English Library edition form and hopefully learn even more about the plot. I have felt like when I've been analysing it in class I've enjoyed it more and I've understood things, but I definitely think there are still a lot of things that I could gain, so hopefully from rereading I will understand everything even more and I'll be able to think about things in a lot of depth and analyse everything. I think it's going to be really intriguing. It's definitely quite a mysterious book. It's not one that I particularly love, but I feel like there's something very interesting about it, so I'm really excited to reread it. The final one that I'm going to be rereading for English literature is The White Devil by Webster, and this is a play, and to be honest I'm very weird about this because the first time I read it I didn't really like it. I don't think I understood it, to be honest. The language is very, very complicated. I just didn't fully get the plot and I didn't really fully get the enjoyment or entertainment out of it, but from studying it I think I actually enjoyed this more than any of the other books that I'm studying this year, which is a bit weird really. I do enjoy The Great Gatsby and The Kite Runner more, but in terms of the Gothic exam this is definitely my favourite one. It's so interesting to analyse. I really love the historical references that are put into the book, and I feel like the messages are really strong. There are definitely a lot of moral messages about this which I really think are relevant even today, even though it was written so long ago. Also, I always seem to do better when I'm writing essays about this book. Even though it's technically a harder play to understand, I just seem to do better. I'm not sure, I feel like it fits the exam and what you have to write better than the other books. I think that's going to be everything that I'm going to put on my February to be read pile. I'm not sure if I'm going to have a lot of time to read, and obviously these are the ones that I have to read for English, but if I do get any more time to read, of course I will read something. I'm just not sure what it's going to be yet. So everyone, that is it for my January wrap up and February to be read pile. I hope it was an enjoyable video and I introduced you to some new books and gave you some recommendations. Of course, in terms of the books I read in January, the 13th tale is one that you have to read. It's amazing. So yes, I think that's everything. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again in my next video.